what you just watched, I haven't yet filmed, but since you're here, I'm glad that it turned out intriguing and thought-provoking and tasteful enough that you've decided to continue to watch. Halloween is my favorite holiday of the year by far. So over the past few years, I've been really trying to up the ante each October. Here in 2020, you can see me transforming into the other mother from Coraline, while my poor dog, just 15 days adopted, is kind of wondering what the hell she's gotten herself into. And then the following year, I gave myself a couple extra noses and mouths, and my husband Jaime, he got his face squished. And then the following year, we made Jaime's lifelong dream come true by transforming him into Batman and me into his worthy nemesis, the Joker. We had so much fun with this costume when we went out. There were like cars honking at us and people asking you to take pictures, and we got into a bar without having to show ID or pay the cover because the bouncer said that our identities had to be kept secret.
What are you doing here, Joker? What did you do with Harvey and Scary Face?
And then last year we were black and white, although my face was a fiery red constellation for the few days after. And right during that Halloween party, as one always should, I started thinking about what we're gonna do this year. So last year in May, we finally got around to watching the most heartbreakingly beautiful show that's ever been made, The Last of Us. It's just an absolute masterpiece, no matter which way you slice it. The story, the writing, the acting, the sound, and the makeup. So a quick spoiler-free rundown for those of you who are still lucky enough to get to experience The Last of Us for the first time. In the show, it's the year 2003, and this parasitic fungus has started to infect all of humanity. Cut to 20 years later, and this fungus that they call cordyceps has done a real number on the world. So there are many stages of infection, which now that people have been living among these infected for so many years have been given different names. You have runners and stalkers and bloaters, and their level of infection is marked by these distinctive physical characteristics that involve like fungus sprouting out of them in different ways. For me, the type of infected that really hits the perfect spot of like beautiful and creepy is called a clicker, which is somebody who's been infected for at least a year. And the mushrooms have kind of like burst out of their face, making it so they can't see, and they have to make this like clicking sound to echolocate and move around the world. So obviously, as you see me like frothing at the mouth as I describe this fun guy, you know that I wanted to be one of these ghouls for Halloween. But like I somehow just like wasn't feeling like going out and buying the foam latex and trying to properly replicate it. It was just like so skillful how they were made, and I didn't want to just end up with like a worse version of what I was seeing on screen. So I started to think about different ways that I could interpret this artwork and put my own spin on it. And these two things came to me. One was that our clickers didn't just have to be like generic people who got infected. They could be some like beloved character from the early 2000s or the 90s who unfortunately in an alternate universe ended up on the wrong side of these pearly whites. And then number two was crochet. As I was trying to learn more about the special effects makeup that they did on the show, I learned about this incredible creative studio that did the special effects makeup and the prosthetics. And I learned all these crazy facts, like on certain shoot days, they had like 60 to 80 infecteds to dress up. And so they had this almost assembly line of pre-made suits that they would put all the actors in. But every single infected is unique with its own story and personality that the designers had thought through. They were inspired by real fungi like chicken of the woods and puffballs. But the fact that really gripped me, along with this stunning inspo picture, was that the designers mapped the fungus color and finish to the environment. So hot, wet, dark spaces got these like richer and glossier and more alive sheens, while like cold, dry, bright settings had these like more muted, desaturated, like almost dry, cracked feel. So then as I stared lovingly at this image for so long, I realized that I had a ball of yarn in my stash of shame that had so many of the same colors and the same satin finish as I was seeing in this image. And when I realized that all of those like unintended accidental ripples that I make in my crochet, because I can't count, that's actually an effect that would be desirable in this kind of a project, it was over. My clicker is also Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. It's only the best for Carrie. So of course, my clicker Carrie lives in conditions hospitable to create create the most chic, colorful, glossy, jewel-toned cordyceps ever. Clicker Carrie is getting her sustenance from Erewhon. She drinks fresh spring water, she gets plenty of omega-3s, and she uses her Lisa Eldridge Skin Enhancing Treatment Cleanser on her fungus folds every night without fail. On the other hand, Runner Neo, he's not having as good a time of it. He's often skipping lunch because his meetings run over. Most days he'll have Soylent, if anything. He has a water bottle that he loves, but he keeps forgetting to fill it, so he's totally dehydrated. And if he just invested in the right products and put aside a little bit of time for self-care each day, he too could have a look as lush as Clicker Carrie's. There's a lot more about their backstories, but I think we should stop here and move on to me showing you how I made these. So this is what I used to crochet the pieces and get the headdresses together. A crochet hook, obviously, some scissors. The mask is to create the clicker, and then the eye patch creates the runner. Super glue helps you adhere the clicker mask to the yarn, which if you get in a variegated style like this will save you a lot of time because you won't have to switch around the yarn as much to get a good spread of color. And this wire is going to get doubled up and then weaved through the finished crochet pieces so that they can be pliable and not just flop over. So in a second, I'm going to show you how to crochet each one of these pieces that make up the headpiece, but I do have an overarching piece of advice for this project, which is that you shouldn't listen to me. The thing that makes this project so much fun is that you really don't need to worry about like exact stitch counts or like matching the shapes, and you can kind of just go with the flow, add and remove pieces however you want to shape the head to look exactly the way that you want it to. The clickers that you see in the show are quite chaotic and messy, like the way that things that grow in nature tend to be. And like there's no one perfect way that mushrooms grow. You see them in like all shapes and colors and sizes, and sometimes they're like bursting in tangled messes, and sometimes they're like creepily organized. So I think really that like the perfect emulation of the clickers that you see on screen is one that's the result of your unique process of creative experimentation. That said, I do have some pointers. So one thing that I noticed as I was devouring a ton of imagery is that they have this very slicked back, like windswept hair gel type look. So these bigger leaves here are an attempt to resemble that slicked back thing. But then also like in this image, you can see that there are parts that do look like a little more messy and random and a little more like knobby. For those, I designed these broccoli looking pieces with like a wider ruching pattern to resemble that element. I'm hoping that by combining these, I'll get this like stunning effect of like this cordyceps looking yarn bursting out of the skull in kind of like a mess, which I'm hoping the broccoli will contribute to, but then also have this sculpted, organized, terrifying effect. But I won't be able to tell if it looks cute until I add a stiffening element so that it won't just flop over like this. Okay, and then one more thing to note is that something that's really impressive about me is that I've been crocheting since I was 10 years old, but I'm too dumb to remember any of the names of the stitches. And so I looked them up for the sake of this video, but my research methods are dubious and non-rigorous. So if you are following with the tutorial, do as I do, don't do as I say. Unless I say to do as I say, in which case then don't do what you see, do what I say you should do. But also like you can do whatever you want. I think this is going well. Watch me. So in all these pieces, you'll see that I've already weaved the wire through, so they're holding their shape really nicely. This small leaf is going to get rolled up like a cannoli. You'll see it creates a very cool effect. And then these long strips sort of go along the cheekbones, or they're the bottom of the mask. And that's what it looks like when it's all put together. Now these are the pieces for the runner. There are fewer. These two crescent pieces are going to sort of wrap around the central shrimp piece, this small center coil. And then the side strap will cover the strap that goes across your forehead. And this is a collar, so you'll just sort of tie it around. It'll look like mushrooms sprouting out the neck. Also, so sorry, not pictured here are these three little messy circular pieces that are filler. I'll show you how to make them.
already crochet, you can probably infer this from the pieces that I just showed you, but if not, let me just give you 5 key things that you need to know. Number 1, you need to know the following stitches. The slip stitch. This will be the main body of each piece. A half double crochet and a double crochet. Number 2, you should know that adding a few extra chains at the end of each row or stopping a few stitches short at the end of each row will allow you to increase or decrease the length of that row, gradually allowing you to change the shape of the piece into a leaf like this, or into a blob or a heart or whatever you want. So here, now that I've gotten to the end of this row and I want it to flatten out, I'm no longer adding 3 more stitches. I'm just immediately making a U-turn and making my way back down.
Each and every day, true play away. I can't get her out of my mind. Wow. I think about the girl all the time. Wow. East side to the west side, pushing fat rides, it's no surprise.
And look, now you can see how I started stopping about 3 stitches short of the end of each row, and I have this like stepping pattern, and I'm reducing it to mirror the pattern that I built up on the other side. Number 3, just know that jamming more than 1 stitch into each stitch of the row below forces the stitches together, and then that's what creates the ruching, rippling pattern at the ends of each piece. If you do 2 stitches into every 1 underlying stitch, you'll get a mild ripple, and if you go berserk and throw in like 6 or 7 into each stitch, then you'll get much more dramatic meanders. It is so much fun to experiment and see how each piece turns out. There's not a single one that I made that I didn't end up loving like it was my child. Curves the word, spins the verb, lovers hit curves so free, what you heard. Rolling with the fatness, you don't even know what the half is. You got to pay to play, just for shorty bang bang to look your way. I like the way you work it, trump tight all day, every day. You're blowing my mind, maybe in time, baby I can get you in my ride. I like the way you work it, no diggity. I got to bag it up, I like the way you work it, no diggity. I got to bag it up, I like the way you work it, no diggity. I got to bag it up, babe. I like the way you work it, no diggity. I got to bag it up. Number 4, as you see me doing here, you can switch out the yarn every now and then to create a varied color palette on each piece. I really like it when my pieces kind of look like a heat map. I'm pretending that I'm coding data into them. So do this as much as you like or not at all, but you'll see in the time lapse at points when I'm just sort of furiously unwinding the yarn, and it's because I'm trying to find the point in the variegation where the transition happens, because I think then when I start using it, I'm able to see the color change more quickly. And finally, number 5, the only difference between the leaf shape and the broccoli shape is that the broccoli has 1 more layer of jammed together double crochets. So that means that the point from which the rippling starts in the broccoli pieces is longer, it has more height. And this gives the ruching more prominence, and it allows it to emerge from lower in the piece. Gives it an overall more chaotic feel. I want to show you how I hacked together these circular filler pieces that are meant for the runner. I mean for them to look like puffball mushrooms, and I think they contribute beautifully to just adding that messiness.
I created a long chain and then I attached the final stitch of that chain to the first stitch of it, which then allowed me to start going in a circle, which actually creates a tube. I like that because that gives you that 3D effect. But at some point, you need to stop the tube. And to do that, you start skipping a stitch every now and then. It starts to pucker in. And then at the end of it, just start throwing random stitches, like zigzagging back and forth. I also wanted to show you an additional step I took for just a few pieces to give them this even more ruffled, like flayed look. So in addition to adding in a double crochet layer at the end of every single piece, where I have 2 double crochet stitches jammed into every underlying single, I went back and in random spots behind that double crochet layer, I added another double crochet layer, just like stacked right behind it.
You throwing shots from afar, I'ma meet you at your front door. So hard to be doing what you really meant for, beauty.
This is a very important step and also very fun to do because as you go along, you start to see it take shape. So if you get a thicker wire than I did, then you can avoid the headache of the step of doubling up the wire and twisting it in. But it is really important that you get a nice blunt end because what you're going to do is weave it around the perimeter of every piece. You don't want it getting snagged in the thread. Once you've passed it all the way through, just pull it out and it'll create like a loop around the piece. At first it'll ruffle, but then just spread it out like this. And now look at the difference. No more flopping, no siree.
Cool beans, that's a whole lot of reefer. Let me help you with the pre-roll. You drink up all my liquor, come on, what I'm supposed to do now? And you talking all that shit, now come on, you gon' have to back it up. If I get too high now, sugar, come on, I might never come down, I might never come down. No, let me get down. And you might not ever come down. No, wanna get down. And you might not ever come down. Let me get down. Come on.
Since I know that he's gonna have to wear these black sunglasses and it'll be at night, I'm trying to maximize visibility. So just snuck in a little hole into the eye patch. You'll see here, it's so easy to be able to stitch these pieces right into the foam of the eye patch.
You drink up all my liquor, come on, what I'm supposed to
For any wires sticking out, I just bend them a couple of times with the hope of avoiding any gouged out eyes.
If I get too high now, sugar, come on, I might never come down, I might never come down. No, let me get down. And you might not ever come down.
I had one more circular puffball piece and I didn't know where to place it. So I put it on and it helped me figure out that the top right was
Never come down. It took too long to get this high off the ground. Don't run, just stay around.
I don't know if this is sage advice or a cautionary tale, but the fact of the matter is I came into this having no idea how I was going to attach the pieces to the mask. And so you can see me here winging it, trying to loop the wires through the eye holes, and it's an awful mess. I'm not enjoying this at all. So I decided to just scrap all of that and realize that Craggle is perfect for sticking this to the mask. From this point, it was just delightful to go in, place the pieces exactly where I needed to, just hold it down for 1 or 2 seconds. And it came together so fast.
No, let me get down. And you might not ever come down. No, wanna get down. And you might not ever come down. Let me get down.
I'm strategically placing them with the hope that I'll have a modicum of visibility. And later on, I also go and fold a few pieces down and stitch them out of the way. And so I was able to see out of both eyes quite clearly. It's actually very sneaky. I just had a little bit of yarn peach fuzz getting into my eye every now and then, but you can get immune to that pretty fast, actually.
while I pop a bottle off of your chain swinging, clang clang, and it costs a lot.
I had this mid-length tulle skirt that's been rotting away in my closet for the last 6 years. So I cut it above the knee, and then I used the piece that I cut off to stitch back at the waistline a few additional layers of layered floof so that it looked like Carrie's skirt. The colors are inverted, but I think the point gets across.
And I got all the eyes on me. Got a bad baby and she's independent. Too many people older than me that's seeking attention. When they want me about the goofies, man, I should've listened. And the smell of the money, my strangest addiction.
She tit for dick, I let her lit, I had to dip. I'm on for fifth, I'm all rich now. I bought a whip, I paint it drive itself.
We start off this makeup tutorial by violently scrubbing the oil off of our face with expired dog paw wipes. I'm using this modeling wax to add a bunch of delicious texture to my face.
Off of your chain swinging, clang clang, and it costs a lot. Bitch, I'm always after Guala, yeah, and you are not badass beat. Keep on going till you hit the spot. Whoa, I'm a big bag.
It takes a little bit of elbow grease to get this wax out of the tub. I'm using a non-disposable kitchen knife, which I'm then gonna go and throw in the trash without batting an eye.
Getting crap popping out the function. The CVS is like a block away. Bought a moisturizer, my ice cold is dry on my face. Don't need that VVS, my ice is fake. Your life is fake. I choose to do it for my pocket's sake. You're basing your opinions on what the major says. I renovate the bad energy I erase.
Yeah, I don't really ever wanna top. Only really ever wanna top. Guess I'm going back to the side. At least this money never really stops. Hey, little mama, yeah, you heard about me. I'ma pop you like a pea, yeah, at a mommy. Yeah, feel so hot like I'm chilling on the beach. Yeah, baby in the sun like the Teletubbies. Balls hanging low while I pop a bottle off of your chain swinging, clang clang, and it costs a lot. Bitch, I'm always after Guala, yeah, and you are not badass.
I just want to comment on the power of blush to make one feel cute even when their face has a bunch of wax scars and fungus on it.
Never ever fall for a thotty, that's an oath.
Point, baby, do what I should, man. Point, baby, do what I could, man. Point, baby, do what I should, man.
Shout out to my friend who's planning to borrow this lipstick later this week.
Point, baby, do what I should, man. Point, baby, do what I could, man. Point.
I'm just laughing watching this footage back, seeing myself freak out thinking that I've ruined the look. I'm smearing lipstick and paint all over myself to look like someone who's been dead for several years. Like, there's not really a lot that you can do to mess that up.
I'm $1 million baby. Don't ask me. Oh, hell no. You rip my city so damn no. Just still don't notice me. Sound next. Oh, VA next. I'm at they neck. I'm running up a check.
So I just want to give this sweet man a shout out. Not only is he a serious person with a real job and a million things to do, on this day he had a raging fever and a sore throat and a cough that sounded like a garbage disposal, but he still made a Herculean effort to summon up the energy for an hour to let me glam him up and prance and stalk around the garden.
I don't believe it, baby. I know you lied all night long. Watch me.
Fun fact, the Neo jacket for this costume is actually a very fancy women's coat from ThredUp that originally cost many hundreds of dollars, but I got it for $11. So there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I'm planning to make a bunch more videos, so if you like this and you want to watch me do a bunch of other kooky projects, then maybe you'll consider subscribing. But in any case, thank you for watching till the end, and I hope that you have the spookiest of Halloweens.